Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for the week of February 10th through February 15th, 2025, and I'm working with the February Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards. Let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm so excited to be back in my craft room. If you don't know, I have been traveling the past 2 weeks. I was in Dubai and Doha and Abu Dhabi. It was a ton of fun, but I'm so happy to be home and back in my craft space. And of course, I'm going to be diving into Project Life as one of the first projects that I'm working on. So this spread is the week right before we left for vacation. So not a lot was happening because I was mostly just getting ready to travel. And because of that, I don't have a ton of photos. I have some photos of, I have a photo of snow. I have some photos of my cat. And then I printed out some photos of my craft room because I had taken these photos for my Instagram this week. And I usually am pretty good about taking a lot of photos, but when I'm not, I tend to have some photos from my craft or from my Instagram, like photos of things that I've taken for my Instagram. So sometimes it'll be photos of my projects or my journals. In this case, it was my craft room. So I will use those in Project Life to fill some of those extra gaps. I think I want to move this one because I don't want all of the cat photos on the same side, although there's one there too. But you can see I have a lot of cat photos because I always take good photos of him, but that is one of the few things I had taking photos of this week. So for this spread, I'm working with the Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards. I have a bunch of ephemera sitting in here because I've kind of designated my Stories by the Month week as the place for my ephemera because that's kind of what I was doing last year. I don't think I'm going to put that together on video this month because I am going to want to include some ephemera from my vacation in there. And I also have those for my journal and my travel album. So I need to kind of go through that separately, but I do want to just share some of the things I saved. I have this package from Onions. I have a package from my coffee beans, these tags from a new bag I got. Don't know. Oh, I got a new cover from Hobonichi. This was from Hubman and Chub Girl. I got an order from them. I got an order from the Kawaii Pen Shop. So I'm just like saving packaging. New yoga block and these cookies from Trader Joe's. Plus my Stories by the Month packaging if I need any additional. Okay, so I'm going to put that stuff to the side. And what I'm going to do is go through the kit. I laid my photos out in an initial layout. I'm not sure if this is what I'll stick with. But I'm going to go through the kit and see what cards I have and what I want to include in each of the pockets. So the Stories by the Month kit this year are following a similar pattern that they did in 2024, which is that you have the 3x4 and 4x6 cards and vellums. So I'm not using these this year, even though it's included in every single spread or every single kit. I'm going to save them for something else. And then let's see, like this is a cute filler. So I have one 4x6 to fill. So this is cute, but not true where I live. February is like still dead in the middle of winter. I would say April is the border between winter and spring. So probably not going to use that one. But you know what, because this quote doesn't apply to me, I could definitely see cutting out this winter and spring thing and using that on a spread. Currently not loving this. This is actually a good one that I might use here to tell some stories from this week. But I did also really like this one. Let's try this again. Hashtag good times. And I also am going to pull over my Hobonichi cousin because this is where I track kind of what happened during the week. Let me find this week. So in my Hobonichi cousin, I keep track of everything that happened and just kind of in a big overview of facts. And that way I have some of my stories here, some highlights and things that happened so I know what to put in this spread. So typically my spreads are a full week. This one I just did 10 through 15 because 16th was a travel day. So the next spread is going to be my vacation, and I didn't want to kind of have that bridge more than one spread. So I'm going to just put this to the side, but I think I could definitely use this card to tell some of the stories from the week. Okay. Random acts of kindness. I don't know that that really fits this week. This one's kind of cute. February. That one's adorable. So is this. And here's this one. And then let me look through the vellums. So I'm thinking these will make good embellishments cut out on some of my photos. And then I need something to fill the rest of these spots. So I also am gonna just kind of look through my stories and see what stories I have to include on each of these. So I have this love story one, so I need to come up with a story for that. So I'm gonna kind of look through my cousin here and see what applies. This one I'm going to use for a bullet point list, which I like to include every week, of just, you know, random little stories from the week. I think this one might be fun to talk about my craft room redo and kind of where I am right now. So I think I'm going to put that there by these craft room photos. And then this one can be about prepping for vacation and Pumpkin getting in the suitcase. I do have a story about work, so I can kind of tell that on there. And then this can be like bullet points of things that fit those stories. So I can put this one here as a filler card, and then I think I might use this one to create a filler card here. There's also like this one if I wanted just to bring in some more color. Kind of like that instead of this one, just because it's so, a lot of these are like muted, like this yellow, and I kind of want to bring in a little bit more color. So I think that is a good starting place. I'm going to crop some white cardstock to put this on top of because it is a piece of vellum, but I'm just going to treat it like a normal card. I'm going to cut these ones out and probably stitch them down. I don't know, I have black thread on my sewing machine. I think actually black will go with this. And then I'm going to do my journaling and embellish. Let's see what we have in this kit. So we have these plastic pieces this month, which I could definitely use as like landing places for some journaling, but I think I'm not going to use them in this spread because I have these on a lot of my photos. There's these word phrase strips. I might pair these with some of the stuff I have going on, and then the chipboard ones. So these are going to be fun to probably include as well. I think I'm going to need to bring in a label to add my dates on there, but otherwise I think that I'm got a good setup here. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on voiceover as I get this one put together.
I had a lot of fun playing with this kit. I started by cutting out these hearts on vellum. I really like to be able to kind of see what the overall spread is going to look like by having the cards laid out on the particular spots. And when these are, I know I'm going to cut them out and you can see all of the white vellum around it. It's kind of distracting to me. So cutting them out kind of helps me visualize how they're going to look across the spread. And you'll see after I cut them out that I rearranged to try to get them balanced on my spread. I don't love the hand cutting out stuff like this all of the time. It is kind of tedious, but I I don't know, I put on a video and I was watching YouTube while working on this, and it was just kind of nice to go at that slow pace because when you're cutting things out, you have to really slow down. I did share in a recent video that I didn't love how it looked when I cut stuff out of like a thicker cardstock, but cutting stuff out of the vellum is just, it's like a dream. It just cuts so smoothly. So I definitely want to do that more often when it is on a piece of vellum. I'm cropping down some white cardstock from my stash to add this pattern paper on top of. This is a pattern vellum, and I really just wanted to make it into a filler card. So I'm just going to adhere it onto white cardstock. Because it's a darker pattern, I don't really mind doing rolling adhesive on there. When you use a light colored vellum, the rolling adhesive does show through, but with that darker vellum, you can't really see it, so it doesn't bother me. I brought these label stickers over from my stash, and I'm going to use my rolling date stamp to add the dates of this week on here so I can add it onto my title card. When going through this kit, I didn't see any obvious title cards for a 3x4 pocket. Often there really aren't ones because a lot of times the title cards are in the 4x6 pockets, but when I'm using this page configuration, I definitely need to have a 3x4 title. So I just added that label on the side. Now I'm going to do some stamping on this card here. So one of the stories I wanted to tell this week was about going into the office 4 days. So since the pandemic, I have been working part-time from home. And in 2020, it was almost exclusively from home, but now it's 50-50 in home or at home and in office. And this week, though, I had to go in 4 days out of the 5 just because I'm going to go on vacation. So I'm going to be out of the office for quite a while. And that's just kind of, we have weird rules about computing that. So it was just very interesting to me to see like how rough it was to go in the office 4 days. And I don't know how I used to do that. So I wanted to journal about that. And I wanted to kind of just make a bright, like bold title that says 4 office days, partially because I knew I wasn't going to have enough to say to fill in the entire card. And also just to kind of highlight what the story is. I find that now that I do the daily journaling in addition to scrapbooking in my project life, I will use some of the same techniques that I use in journaling in my project life album. So this is maybe something that comes more from my journaling of using having the the bright bold title and then doing the handwritten journaling around it. I'm going to go back to that card though because I want to make sure that stamp is fully dry before I write on it. I had to look at the week prior because I was on vacation. I haven't worked on this in a couple of weeks, and I wanted to see kind of where I left off in journaling the story of my craft room redo. So if you are new here, in January, I repainted my entire craft room, which was a huge process because I had to move everything. So I did it in 2 sections. I did one half one weekend, and then 2 weekends later, I did the other half. And during this week, I actually took finished photos, and it's finished in air quotes because my craft room's definitely not finished, but the painting is finished. And I took those photos to share on Instagram, and this was just a week where not a lot happened. So I ended up just using those photos as part of my spread here. And then I wanted to do some journaling just about the process and kind of where I was in my craft room redo during this week. So there's definitely more for me to do in my craft room. I'm looking to get some new furniture and decor and do some micro organizing, but the painting was really the big thing. And so I'm so happy to have that done, especially coming back from vacation and knowing it was completed. So I'm putting a sticky note over that stamping. I think the ink was dry, but because I didn't use Stays On, it does smear if you touch it too soon, and I'm left-handed, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't smearing it. I used a Versamark ink, which I've been using in my journal more often, and so they are kind of just available on my desk, and so it just made sense to use it in this project. And that's just, again, another place where the scrapbooking and journaling are kind of overlapping, but I will link the inks that I have in the description box below if you are interested. You also might be able to tell I am writing with a brown pen. It is a super dark brown, but it's a Sarasa Clip pen, which is similar to the Sarasa Mark-On. The Sarasa Mark-On is a little bit nicer in my opinion, a little bit smoother than the Sarasa Clips, but I do like the Sarasa Clip pens. And the thing I do like about them is they come in all sorts of colors. So I have recently picked up a couple of the vintage sets, and I'm really obsessed with the brown ones. In fact, I just placed an order for like 10 brown ones because I know I'm going to want to use them a lot. I have always been someone who's very much a black pen fan, but for whatever reason, I've really been gravitating towards brown lately in my journal, and I wanted to use it here in my scrapbook as well. So here I am using brown on this spread. So I'm going ahead now and adhering down these hearts and trimming off where they go off the edge. And you can see I rearranged them a little bit because I wanted them to kind of be balanced across the spread rather than next to each other. And I like how they're currently laid out that you can see. And I believe this is the final order that I leave them in. Now I'm working on this journaling card here where I'm journaling about prepping for vacation because that was kind of one of the large themes this week. When I do my journaling for Project Life, I tend to journal in themes. So when I first started this project and was doing weekly Project Life, I journaled by day. So it would be, a card that says this is what happened on Monday and a card that says this is what happened on Tuesday and so on. And that definitely works. However, I have started shifting my journaling to journal by themes, which essentially means I'm looking at all of my stories from the entire week that fit one particular theme, and then I'm going to put them all on one card. So this card here, I had journaled about prepping for vacation. So some of the things on that card have to do with things happening on various days of the week, but they're all on one card because they're all around that specific theme. And I find that style of journaling is more interesting when you're looking back on it. And it's just a different way to kind of frame your stories. I took these cards over to my sewing machine and stitched down all of the vellum hearts. It was completely unnecessary because they were adhered down, but I just wanted to add a little bit of texture on there. I have black thread in my sewing machine right now, which is probably not the best color for this. I think I would have preferred to do brown to match my journaling, but it works, especially because those hearts have black outline on them, and that title card has black on it. So there is definitely black in the spread, even though I'm using brown pen and brown ink. I feel like the brown works with the yellow, and I guess there is kind of a brown in this. If you look at the Currently Loving This card, that's sort of a brown. And so I feel like the brown pen fits. For the sewing, I did pull the thread through the back and taped it down with just some Scotch tape, so there's no loose ends. And now I'm working on this Currently card. So I'm using this to add a bullet point list of things that I was loving this week and things that I was not loving. And it was kind of a fun take on my bullet point list. So if you haven't watched any of my process videos in the past, one of the things I tend to do in pretty much every weekly spread of Project Life is include a bullet point list card. And that is a place where I include those little micro stories from the week that aren't really documented elsewhere. They're not in the photos, they're not long enough to take up an entire card, or they're not related to one of the themes that I journaled about. And they're just the little details of life that I want to make note of. Now, I do not remember these things off the top of my head. What I do is during the week, I write in my Hobonichi Cousin weekly spread. I write pretty much every day a summary of what happened that day and just quick facts of this. I did this and then this and then this kind of through on my Hobonichi Cousin weekly spread. I have that for reference. So what I'm doing is off screen, I'm looking at my weekly spread and pulling stories from it that fit either of these categories. So typically I do just one 3x4 card of a bullet point list, but for this week, I'm using this 4x6 card and categorizing these stories based on these two headers. And it's just a fun take on the bullet point list that I don't normally do. However, you can see on the bottom left corner of the spread, I had pulled out a journaling card that I had intended to be my bullet point list. But you see, I'm doing that on this card, and I'm filling a complete 4x6 card with all of these stories. So I don't have anything left to put in that 3x4 card. So I will go ahead and pull that one out and add another filler card. This spread is one where I do end up having 3 filler cards plus my title card, which is in a way a filler card. And that's not very typical for me. But I really like it because I want to use more of my supplies, and I like the balance, and I like the ability to add some additional things in here when I just don't have that many photos or stories to tell. Like I said, this week was pretty quiet because we were prepping for vacation. I just have those photos of my craft room that I had taken for my Instagram account. I have some photos of pumpkin, and I have one photo of the snow, but that's pretty much it. So it's just a few random photos, and I lucked out, I guess, that I have enough to fill a spread. I know that is something that a lot of people question, whether they would have enough photos for every week. And the only thing I can really say to that is that I have gotten myself in the habit of taking photos pretty regularly in my life because I have been scrapbooking for so long. I've been doing Project Life since 2013. So it's just become part of my regular routine to take photos, even if they are photos of silly things like my food or my cat or the snow outside, just little things. Also, the fact that I'm very active on Instagram helps me take photos and have enough photos to fill my spread, because I do take photos for my Instagram pretty regularly to include on my stories of just things that are going on in my life. And of course, I take photos for my feed as well. A lot of those photos are of my projects, but I have in the past used some of those photos in my Project Life spread to show an example of something I'm working on and use that as just an additional photo to include in my spread. Sometimes I have even included a photo of me working on Project Life in my Project Life album, which I think is kind of funny, but it is true. It is a piece of my life and something that I do pretty regularly. I went through the chipboard pieces, and I'm just adding those as some extra embellishments on some of the cards. Like I said, I'm trying to use more of my supplies. If you missed it, I recently shared my March Plan With Me video. And in that video, I went through my craft planning, including my product tracking, where I track all of my products that are coming in and going out to make sure I'm using more than I am buying. And spoiler, I am not, but I am getting closer to it. I'm not buying an excessive amount that compared to what I'm actually using. And I feel like that is a win, but I like that accountability. So if you are interested in that, or that sounds like something you might need, you might want to check out that video after this one to see how I am doing that. But because of that, I feel that kind of excitement to use my supplies rather than hoard them. So even though I really love all of the chipboard pieces in this kit, I want to use them, and I considered trying to use them all, but a couple of them have sentiments on them that just don't work for this spread, and I wasn't going to force it. But I did want to include a lot of them on here. I also used some of the word phrase strip stickers. I put that one on that circle chipboard piece. And then on that bottom right-hand card, I stacked 2 of them with one of the chipboard banners to add just something a little bit more on that card. And you saw I also added them onto some of the hearts that I had cut out along with some of the chipboard pieces just to create some clusters of embellishments. That is going to wrap up this spread. Now I'm just going through and slipping everything in the pockets. As I do that, I check to make sure that they fit. Sometimes they need a little bit extra trim. And I also am just kind of doing a final review of whether or not I like the order of the cards, because I can always switch them around. I'm looking for balance in dark and light. I'm looking for balance between words and photos. And I'm looking to see that embellishment clusters that are similar are not in cards that are touching as much as possible. Here's a look at that completed spread. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.